Alright, hello everyone, welcome to this fourth video on object oriented programming with C++. This is going to be your second demonstration video of C++. In the first video we saw lots of features of C++ like classes, objects, inheritance, constructor, object, did we see operator overloading? No, we did not. We are going to look at that in this class maybe. Alright, but then we saw function overloading, function overriding. Alright, and yeah, lots of other features. Right. So if you did not watch the last video, I would suggest that you go back and watch that video before you watch this video. Alright, that being said, let us start today's video. I want to start with a warning. That there are a few concepts that I am going to talk about in this video, but I will not be able to explain in depth this concept in this class. Alright, the reason for that is that I am not going to use pen and paper in this video. That is, I am not going to use my tablet to write in this video. Alright, that I am going to do in the next class, hopefully. But then I will be demonstrating some of the features in this IDE. I am using an IDE in this class. So I will be demonstrating a few features. I will not be able to draw and explain some of these things. But then don't worry, as we proceed further into this course, I will be explaining each of the things that we learn about in today's class at a greater depth, okay, with far more details. So with that, let us start today's video. What you see on your screen right now should be very familiar to you. Alright, we already talked about what this code means in the last video. So there is this class called square. It has two public attribute, length and width, and two public function, square and area. So the function called square, that does not return anything. It has the same name as the name of the class. This function or this method is the constructor. The constructor takes two parameters, and then in my main function, in line number 16, I have created an object of this class, square. Alright, so I have passed two values 10 and 20. 10 is assigned to length and 20 is assigned to width in the constructor. And so this is what I have. I have the definition of a class, and I have created a class. Alright, so yeah, very familiar stuff from the last video. That being said, let me not talk about this right now. Let me talk about something very simple that you have studied already in your first year. Alright, I am going to create an integer I, and it has a value of 10. I am going to create a pointer, okay, and this is going to store the address of I. Alright, should be very familiar to you. This is something that we are not going to talk about in depth in this course, because this is one of the prerequisite of this course. This is something that you should have studied in first year. Alright, but let me give a very brief overview of what is happening here. I have one variable called I, and this variable I is a variable of type integer. So being a variable of type integer, it is going to be allocated 4 bytes of memory. So this variable I is going to be allocated some space in memory, right? There is some 4 bytes somewhere in my memory, in my RAM, where this variable I is located. So in those 4 bytes, in that area, I have stored the value 10, right? So that memory has some address. Alright, now say 1000 is the address of that area of memory. Alright, is the address of the first byte of these 4 bytes. Alright, so the address is 1000, but what is the value that is stored in that area, in that portion of memory? The value that is stored there is equal to 10. Alright, so Understand the difference? I is a variable. I occupies some space in memory. So I has a address in memory. Alright. And I in that address stores this value equal to 10. Okay. This is what is happening in line number 16. In line number 17, I have another variable j. Now j is also a variable. J is also going to occupy some space in memory. Now what is it that j is holding? What is it that j is storing? J is storing the address of I. Okay, I said address of I is equal to 1000. So in j, that's memory area that is allocated for j. Okay, that is going to store 1000, the address of I. So how did I get the address of I? I got the address of I by writing ampersand I. So when I write ampersand in front of a variable name, I get the address of that variable. Okay, had I written simply I would have gotten the value of I. The value of I is 10. Okay, so had I written I would have gotten 10. But since I am writing ampersand I am getting the address of I, that is 1000. Alright, so this is what I have. Now let me go ahead and print these values. If I do printf, and I am going to print the value of I first, so I write printf %di, very familiar to you. Then I am going to print whatever is in j. Okay, the address that is in j, that is what I am going to print in line number 20. And then I am going to print, this is interesting. Now what is in j? What is j? J is a pointer variable. What is j holding? J is holding the address of I. Now what do I want to do? I want to print the value, okay, of whatever j is holding. J is holding the address of I want to print the value of I. Now how am I going to do that? I am going to go to j. I am going to look at the address. I am going to go to that address. I am going to take that value, and that is what I want to print. That is what I want to do. I hope you understood this clearly. Alright. So how am I going to go to j and get the address and go to that address and get the value and print that? Very simple. I write star j. Okay. So this symbol start, this is star j. What does this do? This will print the value of whatever is pointed to by this address that is in j. Alright, lots of words I am speaking right now, but then I hope everything makes sense. If this does not make sense, then you are in trouble. Alright, you need to know pointer. If you do not understand what I am doing right now, if you have any confusion, then you must reach out to me and tell me that you have confusion with pointer. Alright, I am moving ahead under the assumption that this concept of pointer is very clear to you. If you do not understand pointer, then you are going to face difficulty going ahead in this course. Alright, so this is pointer. Let me go ahead and execute this program. What do you expect is going to be the output? In line number 19, I am printing the value of I. Straightforward. It should print the value of I, that is equal to 10. In line number 20, I am printing j. Okay, j holds the address of I. Alright, so j itself is occupying some memory in my RAM, but then in that RAM, say j is located in memory 2000. So and I is located in memory 1000, in memory address 1000. So if I go to memory location 2000, what I am going to see is 1000. Okay, so what is it that j is holding? J is holding the address of I. Now from J, I'm going to 2000, that is the address of J. I see 1000, then I go to 1000 and I get this value of I. Okay, that is 10. So I access this value of I through the address that is stored in J. Okay, it is shown in line number 21 by writing star of J. Okay, let me go ahead and print this, execute this. Hold on, my laptop is slow. All right. Okay, so yeah, line number 19 is printing 10 because that is the value of I. Then line number 20 is printing J, and J is the address of this variable I. Okay, so whatever you can see here, this hexadecimal value, this is the address of this variable I. Then what is stored in this address? This is in J, this address is stored in J, this is the address of I. What is there in this address? This 10 is there in this address, so that is being printed here. Okay, so this is all about pointer that we are going to talk it. If you if you have any doubt, then you should reach out and to me, and I will do a extra class or something in which I will deep dive into pointer and explain in greater details, right? So this is pointer. Let me remove this. All right, so going back to my program, I had this class square and then I created an object square. All right, now I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to create another object, say P, and this is going to hold the address of square. Alright, sorry, of course I have to write a star. Okay, other variable, other pointers. Alright. So here are some things. So I write cout length is s.length, right? We are very familiar with this. This is how we access the attribute of a object. Length is the attribute of our s object. This is how we access it. And then I am going to print the area. Area is s.area. Alright, so this is how I access the method of an object. So accessing attribute length and accessing method area. This is how I do that. Let me execute my program. My program is executing and length is 10, area is 200, fine. Now let me try to access this value through this pointer. Now my pointer variable P, okay, P is a pointer and then P is holding the address of this object S. Alright, so let me access length and area through P. Let me try to execute. Oops, there seems to be a problem. Okay, now the problem is this. There is a syntax error. Okay, length, when I am accessing the attribute of a pointer to an object, I have to write this arrow. Alright, I have to write this arrow. Okay, so now if I go ahead and execute, I will get length is 10 and area is 200 like before. Okay, so see the difference. Previously, when I had an object dot attribute or object dot area, I used this dot operator. But now that I have a pointer dot attribute or pointer dot area, I cannot use dot. Instead, I have to use this arrow, right arrow. That is your hyphen and greater than symbol, one after the other. Okay, so I have to write pointer arrow attribute or pointer arrow area. Alright, so that is how what you see on your screen. Alright, fine. So I hope that clears up pointer to an object. Okay, everything regarding memory is same as it was when you had this pointer to integer or pointer to float, double, etc. Same thing. The difference is that here you have you are pointing to an object, and when you want to access the attribute or the method of an object, previously when using this object variable, you had this object name dot attribute name, object name dot method name. Now you are going to do object to pointer arrow attribute name or object to pointer arrow method name, right? So you see this difference. I hope this makes sense. Of course, if you have doubt, reach out to me. Okay, this is this thing, pointer to an object. All right, I hope this makes sense. All right, now let me go ahead and do something. Let me remove this width. Okay, in my class I have only length, suppose. Okay, say this is a square now. Square does not need length and width, it needs only length. So I am going to return length into length. Okay, length square essentially. Let me not complicate how to do square. Now there is something that I want to do. Okay, this will take my constructor will take only one parameter. Okay, st20. Now what I want to do is this. I want to create another square. All right, u. I don't want to pass a parameter. So what I am going to do, what will happen when I run this? Yes, there is some problem. All right, so it seems the constructor always takes a parameter. So let me create a constructor that does not take a parameter. Okay, so this is object overloading. Let me set length equal to 0. What do I have? I have two constructors. One does not take a parameter, the other takes a parameter. The one that does not take a parameter will set length equal to 0. The one that takes the parameter will set length equal to the parameter. Alright. Then area is of course there. The fact that I have two constructor, okay, with different signature, different parameter, is because of this feature that we talked about in the last video called object overloading. Okay, so I have overloaded this constructor. Now let me go ahead and run this. I should not have any problem. Previously I had a problem, now I don't no longer have a problem. Fine. Now what do I want to do? This u should be equal to s plus t. Alright, does this make any sense? When I add these two objects, s and t, my object s had length equal to 10, my object t has length equal to 20. So when I add these two objects, I should have a length equal to 30. Alright, so area should be equal to 30 into 30 equal to 900. Okay, so that is what should happen, but what will happen, that is a different game altogether. Okay, let me just print area should be equal to u dot area. Okay, u is what? U is s plus t. Okay, and I have to put this parenthesis around area. Fine. Now let me go ahead and try to execute this program. Now when I execute this program, of course there is some problem. Okay, the problem is that this operator addition, okay, it is defined for integer, it is defined for floating point double, alright, it is defined for all these different data types, but it is not defined for what are the data types that I am trying to add. Okay, I am trying to add two objects of class square. So it is not defined for how to add squares, right? So it is not there in my C++. Now what do I have to do? I still want to add these two integers, right? So what do I have to do? I have to redefine this meaning of plus, so that when I use this plus with operator, with this object of type square, it should have some other meaning. Okay, now it should have some meaning. Right now it does not have a meaning, and so when I try to execute it, I get an error. Now what should happen? When I add these two objects S and T, I should get an object where the length of these two objects are added together. Okay, so let me go ahead and do that. Let me define what should be the return type of my function. My return type is square. Okay, now what is my function? Operator plus. I am going to overload this operator plus. So this is how I write operator plus. Okay, so what does this mean? Along with a object, okay, when I use this plus, and what is on the right of this plus, there is another object of the same type, right? So operator plus, the other object is a pointer to that object. Okay, so this should do what? Length. Let me create a square x. Okay, then x dot length equal to my own length plus t dot length. Okay, and this is a pointer, so I cannot write t dot length, I have to write t arrow length. Okay, t is the pointer, right? You can see here there is a star, so star means it's a pointer. Alright, okay, and length is not a function, so there should be no parenthesis. Okay, so what is happening here? I am saying that I want to override this operator's plus. Okay, so what does this mean? This means that whenever this plus operator will appear next to an object of type square, okay, so S is the object, plus is appearing next to S, and then to the right of S, what is there? There is this other object called T. So T will be passed as parameter to this function. Okay, S is the object, so I get length of S in this way, length. Okay, and then I get T's length in this manner, T arrow length, and I create a new object, and I set the length of this new object equal to length of S plus length of T. Okay, so that is how I have created the length of this new object, and then I am going to return this new object that I had created. Okay, so let me go ahead and run this program. Okay, alright, sorry, I have to write percentage ampersand in here. Alright, I made a mistake when explaining. I have to means a pointer would be passed, but then I am getting the value out of this pointer. Okay, so this is no longer a pointer, although a pointer was passed, but I have converted from pointer to a value, and so now I can a pointer to an object was passed. I am converting from a pointer to an object. I am getting the object out of that. So since t is now an object, I can directly write t dot length. Okay. So sorry about that. I had a little bit of confusion. So this is what I have. If I now add this object s and then this object t, I have 10 plus 20 is equal to 30. So the length of u is now equal to 30. So the area is equal to 9000. Okay. So this is how I have what have I done? I have overloaded the meaning of this operator. Okay, addition, and then here some pointer was passed. Okay, then we got the value out of this pointer. So this is object overloading. Alright, fine. Sorry, operator overloading. There is nothing called object overloading. Alright, so this is what I have. Now let me remove this. I hope you understood everything over here. Then let me go back with, I don't need this. Let me put in J with equal to J. Return this. I am not going to overload anything. Remove this. Fine. Alright. Now let us go back and talk about C once again in a little bit of details. Okay. Do you remember this thing? Memory layout in C. Okay. So what happens is that when you run a program, how do you run a program? You write a program in some text file, right? Something.c or something.c usually in case of C program, but then in case of C++ program it will be written as something.cpp. Okay, so you have this source file c.c or .cpp. Then you pass this source file through a compiler, and what comes out of the compiler is a binary executable file, something.exe in Windows, or in case of Windows a.out, essentially, if you don't give a name to your output file. Okay, in case of GCC. So that is what happens. You get a executable file. Now when you run this executable file, when you execute this executable file, okay, that is when your program actually starts running. Your program is in hard drive, right? And from there your program has to be brought into the memory, and in memory your program has to be run. Okay. So when your program is loaded into memory, a certain amount of RAM or memory is allocated for your program. Okay. Now this memory that is allocated for your program looks like this. Okay. Later on you will see that the memory that is allocated depends on something called virtual address pointer and all these things, how to convert this virtual address into physical address. Lots of internal details are there that you will study about in computer organization architecture and in microprocessor, but then we cannot go into this depth in this course, right? So understand that a certain amount of memory is allocated for your program. This program is divided, this memory is divided into certain number of section. Okay, so the four major type of section are this text memory, data memory, stack memory, and heap memory. Okay, this text memory, also known as code memory, this contains the actual code, the actual program, this instruction that comprise your program. Okay, your program is essentially instruction and instruction after instruction that the processor can process. Alright, so all this machine code would be there. So those are there in the code memory, in the text memory. Okay, after this code memory, all your is data memory. Okay, this data memory is divided into two parts. In the first part, all this initialized data memory would be there. These global variables would be there, and then in the uninitialized data memory, all these global variables that are not initialized will be there. All right. So let us look at this with an example. This double my list in this program, my list will be there in data memory. Okay. Then this children, int children, will be there in data memory as well, but it will be there in uninitialized data memory. Okay. My list will be in initialized data memory. So your data memory divided into two parts. In one part, initialized data will be there, in the other part uninitialized data will be there. Okay, so after this data memory, there are, so we talked about code, text memory and data memory. So after apart from these two, there are two other memories. Okay, the next that we are going to talk about is stack memory. Now what is allocated in stack memory is all the local variables. So when your program starts running, okay, then this main function will be the first function that will be called, right? And so in this program that you see on your screen, you have this variable called age, integer, variable called age, this double variable called salary, right? So in this first two lines you have these two local variables. So space for these two local variables will be allocated in stack. Okay, when this main function is called, space for these two variables will be allocated in stack. So this is all that is there in your stack right now. Now in line number 3 of main, what is happening? This multiply by 2 with this parameter salary is this function is called. All right. So now that this function is called, there are a certain number of things that has to happen. Okay. Now there are things called base pointer, stack pointer that has to be moved up. The old base pointer has to be pushed to the stack. All these things have to happen, but we will not go into those. Okay. Don't worry about all this, but understand this. What will happen in the stack when in line number 3 of main program, what is there in line number 3 of main program? There is this function called multiply by 2. Okay, right now what is there in stack? Right now stack contains memory allocated for these two variables, that are these two local variables of my main program. The two local variables of my main program are what? This integer called age and this double called salary. Okay, so two variables allocated in the main program. Up till now my program has executed up to line number 2, okay, of main. In line number 3 I am calling one more function. Okay, now the first thing that should happen is my parameter that I have that I am passing to this function multiply by 2 has to be put in the stack. Okay, then what will happen in my stack? This variable, local variable that I have, this double twice. Okay, this local variable of my function multiply by 2, memory has to be allocated for this variable. Okay, this is double variable. Now my function will do a certain amount of calculation, some computation, and then my function will come out of this, my function will return something, right? So once my function returns, so I had a stack. In that stack I had all these variables, local variables of main. On top of the local variables of main, I had the local variables of I had the local variables of main. After that, when I called this multiply by 2, on top of main I had allocated this local variables of multiply by 2, right? So once this multiply by 2 returns, now once again this is removed from the stack, this memory is freed up. What remains is once again all these local variables of main. So say I am in main, I make function 1, I call function 1. So all these local variables of function 1 will be allocated memory on top of main. So in function 1, if I call function 2, on top of function 1 some more memory will be allocated to function 2, and this is how my stack will be allocated space for all these local variables, okay, of my program, of all this function that I call. So as I keep on calling function, the more and more function that I call, the more deep into this function call that I go, the more memory will be allocated to stack, and as I come out of this function, the more and more I return back, the more and more my stack is going to shrink, right? So that is what is happening with stack. All right. Now here is the question: how do my program or my compiler know that when I call this function, how much do I actually have to allocate for a certain function? Okay, that the compiler is going to know by looking at your source code, right? So when your compiler is going to look at this main function, it sees that there is this integer called age, there is this salary called double. So age has to be allocated 4 byte, salary has to be allocated 8 byte. So in total I should allocate 12 byte of memory to main. Okay, then multiply by 2, I have to allocate 8 byte for multiply by 2. So your compiler is going to look at your code and it is going to understand that this is the amount of memory that I should allocate to this function. Okay, for very easy for your compiler to figure this out. Now there is a problem. Okay, say I want to create a linked list. I have a certain function in which I am going to create a linked list, and then the length of the linked list, how am I going to decide the length of the linked list? I am going to ask the user, okay, in runtime. So the user is going to enter my linked list length is 100 or 1000 or 1 million. Okay, so now here is the problem. If I allocate memory beforehand, okay, then compiler could allocate area for this linked list in my stack memory, right? But then the problem is that I do not know beforehand how much memory I am going to use. All right, so I cannot tell the compiler, I cannot write my this thing. I cannot write in my code the amount of memory that I am going to eventually use. Okay, so there is this one thing that I will have in my as a local variable. I will have this head pointer that points to the beginning of the linked list. Okay, so this head pointer variable itself will be a local variable that will be there in my stack, but then the things that this head pointer is pointing to, I do not know beforehand how much memory actually I am going to use up. Okay, so I may allocate a very large amount of memory, and then the linked list will be a very small linked list. That might happen, so that would result in underutilization, misuse of resources, okay, wastage of resources. But then the other situation that may happen is that I may allocate a very small amount of memory, but then I may need a very big linked list that does not fit in this memory. Okay, so the problem is that once again I do not know beforehand how much memory I am going to need at runtime. So I am going to know that as I run this program. Okay, so stack cannot be used. What do? I use this final memory type that I have. I am going to use this heap. Okay, so this is how I use the heap. In main I have this integer age, and I am going to allocate some memory for this integer. Okay, I have this list malloc, I have allocated some memory for this list of list of doubles called mylist. I have allocated some memory in heap using memory malloc. Okay. So when I call this function called main, what is going to happen? This pointer variable age, this pointer variable mylist is going to be allocated memory in stack. Okay, but then the actual memory, all right, the actual list is going to be allocated, is going to be there in my heap. All right, so that is what I have. If I do not know beforehand how much I am going to use, say this list at one point of time is now it has 3, its length is 3. Okay, so at some other point of time, say I want to store 10 variable here, say this value 3 or 10, whatever it is, I am asking the user to enter this value. So I cannot know beforehand how much I am going to allocate to this array, my list, right? So I cannot say beforehand to my compiler that this is the memory that you have to allocate to me. So this is what I have. I am allocating memory in the heap. Okay, how do I allocate memory in the heap? I allocate memory by writing malloc. Alright, so yeah, this pointer itself will be in the stack, but then this pointer, my list, that is pointing to this list, where is this list? The list is in heap, but this pointer itself will be in stack. I know I am going to use a list, okay, and I am going to have something that is pointing to this list. So one address will be there in my local memory. I know I am going to use this thing beforehand, so I can allocate one I can allocate memory for a for this list in my stack. That is something that I can do. Okay, but since I do not know how much my list is going to be, how big my list is going to be, I cannot allocate memory for my list in my actual list in stack. Okay, I can allocate memory for the pointer, one single pointer. So if your address is 32-bit long, this pointer variable will be 32-bit, but then the list itself is varying and it is there in my heap. Okay, I hope you understood all this thing. Okay, now one more problem that may arise is this: I am allocating memory, right, to this array, this list, my list. So say at some point of time I am allocating some memory for some task that I have. Okay, now my heap memory is going to be used up. At some other point of time I am going to use up some more from my heap. Okay, so as I use more and more in my heap memory, whatever is there, is going to be used up. So if I simply allocate memory in my heap and I use them up and then forget about it, okay, what is going to happen is that at some point of time, very soon my heap is going to fill up. Okay, and then when I need memory to do something, I am not going to have any more memory available for me. Okay, because my heap is going to be full. All this memory that was there in my heap is allocated for some task, and now there is nothing that is available for me to use. Okay, so what do I do? Once I have allocated some area, some portion of memory for my task, when my task is complete, I have to free up that memory. Okay, now here you can see this is the syntax to free up the memory. Alright, so this is what it is. You allocate memory in heap. When you are done, you free up. Alright, so a certain number of function that you have seen here, you have seen two. Okay, malloc and free. But then in C, when you studied C last year, you must have studied about two more functions. Those are calloc and realloc. Okay, so this is what you have. All these four functions malloc, calloc, realloc and free is used to allocate and free up memory in heap. Okay, and I think I have given you sufficient motivation to use heap. Okay, at certain time we may not know beforehand what is the amount of memory that I am going to use, so at that time I have to use heap. Okay, so this is what I have, the heap memory. Now let's go back to my program. This square object that I have created, this program that you see on your screen, in this program I have created an object called square, right? So this square object that I have created is a local variable that is there in my function main. Okay, so this object will be allocated space when this main function is run. Alright, and it will be allocated space in the stack because this is a local variable. Now I am going to do one thing. I am going to do this. Alright. So this is how I allocate memory on the heap. Okay, for this object S. Now you have seen this keyword new. Let me use this keyword with integer as well. I can allocate memory for an integer. I can write new int, and I'm going to give a value of 25. So what is this going to do? Let me see out I. Okay, so I have allocated a integer memory for an integer in heap, and I have set the value of this I, okay, equal to 25. So when I print the value of I should get 25, and hold on, my laptop is slow. Yeah, it is printing 25. So this is how I have allocated memory in heap. Okay, for I. Let me create a array of integer. This is how I create an array of integer, right? So I am going to write I of 0. Sorry, I have very bad typing skills, sorry about that. I of 0, I of 1 is equal to 2. Alright, and so on. You can I have created an array, and this is a square bracket. Previously when I was directly creating just an integer and not an array, and I was setting value equal to 25, I had this parenthesis, right? Now I have square bracket. Now I can do cout I of 0, so when I execute this, I should get value equal to 1. Okay, 1 should be printed, and it is being printed. Okay, so this is how I have allocated memory in my this heap memory. Okay, so I have allocated in my heap memory I have allocated space memory to create for an array of integer of length 5. Okay, so an array that can hold 5 elements 0 up to 4 in my heap memory, and this variable I is a pointer that points to the first of these 5 elements, right, to this array, the first index of the array. And of course, since the name of an array is a pointer, I can use this array notation to access each of these 5 elements, right? So this is what I have. Once again, yeah, so once again, point to note here is this function malloc returns a pointer. We cast it into our data type that we want, but then it returns a pointer, Similarly, here this keyword new, it returns a pointer. Okay, point to be noted. And this new allocates memory where it allocates memory in the heap. Okay, we use up this memory, and when we are done, we write delete. Okay, since it's an array, I write delete bracket and then I. Okay, so done. Memory deallocated from heap. Had it not been an array, had it been a integer, say this is the integer 25. Okay, this is not an array of integer, now it's just an integer, and I have to write star I, since I am going to get a integer. So with array, the situation is different, because array, the name itself is a pointer, but here I have to get the value. Okay, so in case of array, if the name of the array is ARR, and I write ARR bracket square bracket 0, that would give me the value of whatever is there in the first index. But then here with integer pointer, I have to get the value, I have to write star I. All right. So since this is not a array, point to be noted, this is not an array, this is just a integer. I do not need this bracket in front of delete. Okay, I just write delete, and this is how in line number 16 memory was allocated in the heap. In line number 17 I use up the memory. In line number 18 I am done using. In line number 18 I delete the memory that was allocated. Okay, in my heap memory. All right. So yeah, you have seen what till now you have seen these two keywords. One is new, the other is delete. Okay, so in C++ you will use new and delete in order to allocate memory in heap. Okay, allocate and deallocate memory in and from heap. All right, very simple compared to what you did in C. C is also not that difficult, right? Just malloc and then size of whatever memory you wanted. Okay, so this is what you have, allocation of memory in heap memory. All right, so let's allocate memory for my object S. So I am creating a new object in heap memory. This object is of type square, and then I am saving this in my heap memory. There is this object. This object is of type square, and then this variable, pointer variable S, is pointing to that address in heap where I have created this object, right? So this is a pointer that points to this square. Now I already just said that this keyword new will allocate memory in heap, and it will return a pointer to that memory. Alright, like malloc returned pointer to this memory. If you created an integer or created a number of integer, hence creating a list or array of integer in heap memory, then malloc would have returned the pointer to the first byte, right? Here also in the same way, this new will return the pointer to the first byte of the object. All right, so new is returning a pointer, to be noted. Now let me print the area of S. So how do I print the area? Do I write area dot area? I don't, right? I write area arrow. Since S is a pointer, we already talked about this, that with a pointer you cannot use dot. Okay, had it not been a pointer, had it been a local variable like just an object, not a pointer to an object, then we would have written object dot method or object dot attribute. But since it's a pointer, I am writing pointer dot pointer arrow method name or pointer arrow attribute. All right. So this is what I have. I execute, and area is okay, this should be width. Alright, and let me execute again. Yes, area is 200, 10 into 20, 200. So this is, you may have noticed that nothing has changed. But what has changed and what is very important is that right now my object is in heap and not in stack. Okay. Of course, definitely not in data because nothing here is global variable. Okay. But then understand this, there might be some point in time when you will not know beforehand, okay, how many objects you are going to create, how many objects you may need, when you are going to create this object. So your logic may be something that depending on some value you are going to create an array of object, then you don't know how many objects are going to be there. Alright, so all this, if you don't know beforehand how much memory you are going to use, you cannot allocate a fixed amount of memory beforehand, right? Since you don't know. So in that case, what you have to do is you have to create allocate memory in heap during runtime. Alright, so yeah, so I have allocated in line number 16 I have allocated memory in heap. In line number 17 I have used this memory. Now I am done using this object. I don't need this object anymore. So I have to delete this object. So I have to be very careful that I do indeed delete whatever I have allocated. Okay. So if I don't delete, if I don't free up the heap, then if my program is going to run for a very long time, then when running, if my heap is used up, I will get a out of memory error. Okay, this allocation, this pointer will essentially be a null pointer. Okay, so you may have talked about that in C. Alright, so this is how I allocate memory in heap memory, and this is how I delete. Once done using, I delete from heap memory. Alright, so yeah, this is everything for today. We have seen how to use pointers with object in the context of object. You know pointer already, but then today you saw how to use pointer with object. There is nothing different than what you already knew in C. Okay, so first we studied pointer, then we talked about operator overloading. We saw how to overload this operator plus to add two, add whatever add means when adding to objects. Okay, so we gave new meaning to this add symbol, to this plus symbol, depending on our application, depending on our program, whatever logic our program demands, right? Then we did this, created, talked a little bit about stack memory and heap memory. Alright, then we learned how to use these two keywords, new and delete, okay, to allocate memory in heap. In C++, allocate memory in heap for integer, for an array of integer, and for an object. And then we saw how to use delete to delete memory that was allocated for an object or for an integer, and then this delete bracket to delete this memory that was allocated for an array. Alright, so this is the content of today's video. In the next video we hope to really go into this abstract data types. I said in the last video that in this video I will be going to abstract data type, but then these are some content that I believe you should know about. Right, so in ADT we will see things like linked list, list, and then stack. So all these things are going to use memory that will be allocated in the heap. So understanding allocation and reallocation of memory in heap is going to be important going forward in this course. So that being said, I hope you understood everything. Next video is going to be on pen and paper. Okay, no more IDE, at least in the next video. Right, so this ends our demonstration of C++. We will start module 1 in our next video. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any doubt, do reach out through WhatsApp or through by writing your doubt in the comment section below. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next video.